Why didn't Mao conquer Taiwan?
It's 1949, and the Chinese Civil War is coming to a close. On one side, Mao Zedong and the Communists have secured the mainland. On the other, Chiang Kai-shek and the Nationalists are fleeing to a small island we all know today as Taiwan. Victory seems inevitable for Mao, yet Taiwan remains unconquered. The question is, why? With the Communists in control of China, why did Mao stop short of taking Taiwan? What kept him from completing his vision of a unified China? Let's dive into the reasons behind this intriguing historical mystery. By 1949, Mao Zedong and his Communist Party had triumphed in the Chinese Civil War. After years of bitter fighting, they had driven the Nationalists, led by Chiang Kai-shek, off the mainland. With victory banners flying and the People's Republic of China declared, Mao had consolidated control over a vast territory stretching from the plains of Manchuria to the far reaches of Xinjiang. The Nationalists, meanwhile, were in full retreat, packing up whatever they could carry and fleeing to the island of Taiwan. A desperate escape, but one with a glimmer of hope. It was like the final scene in a disaster movie. If you missed that boat, you were out of luck. But with Mao so close to unifying China, why didn't he just finish the job and follow them across the Taiwan Strait? On paper, it seemed like an easy win. But reality was about to throw Mao a curveball, or two. Mao wasn't done. After securing the mainland, he had his eyes set on Taiwan. The plan? A full-scale invasion across the Taiwan Strait. The Communist forces were ready to put the final nail in the coffin of the Nationalists. Mao had the manpower, and he had the momentum. His forces had just won the mainland, so what was stopping them from crossing this narrow stretch of water? Well, for starters, the People's Liberation Army Navy wasn't exactly a modern fleet. In fact, some of these ships looked like they'd been borrowed from the Pirates of the Caribbean set. Yeah, not exactly what you'd want to take into a major island invasion. The Communists had a big problem: they lacked the naval strength to pull off a successful amphibious assault. It was like trying to storm a fortress with a fleet of fishing boats. And while Mao was considering his next move, the Nationalists weren't just sitting around waiting to be conquered. They were busy fortifying Taiwan's defenses, ready to turn it into a fortress. Mao had the troops, but Taiwan had the terrain, mountainous, rugged, and perfect for a strong defense. So, while an invasion seemed inevitable, it wasn't going to be easy. Mao had one major obstacle to deal with before his forces could make that journey across the Taiwan Strait. And that obstacle was about to get a lot bigger. Enter the United States. As Mao was drawing up plans for his invasion of Taiwan, halfway across the world, America was keeping a very close eye on the situation. The Chinese Civil War had ended, but a much bigger conflict was heating up: the Cold War. In the eyes of the US, Taiwan wasn't just an island, it was a crucial piece on the global chessboard. Taiwan's fall into Communist hands would mean a huge strategic loss for the West in their battle against Soviet influence in Asia. And the Americans? They weren't about to let that happen. President Truman responded quickly. In June 1950, he ordered the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet to patrol the Taiwan Strait, essentially drawing a line in the sand, or should I say, the sea. This move was a direct message to Mao: touch Taiwan, and you're picking a fight with us. Suddenly, Mao's invasion plans hit a bit of a snag. Let's just say the PLA's fishing boat fleet wasn't ready to take on the world's most powerful navy. The U.S. 7th Fleet was like the bouncer at the club, and Taiwan was on the VIP list. This wasn't just about Taiwan. The U.S. was playing Cold War chess, and Taiwan was a valuable pawn. By protecting the island, the Americans could limit communist expansion in Asia and maintain a strategic foothold in the region. The Cold War was a high-stakes game, and both the US and the Soviets knew it. Taiwan's fate wasn't just a regional issue, it was a piece in the larger struggle for global dominance between two superpowers. While Mao may have been eager to conquer Taiwan, the reality on the ground back in mainland China was anything but rosy. After years of civil war, the country was in complete chaos. Famine, destroyed infrastructure, and a population exhausted by decades of conflict, China wasn't ready for another major military campaign. Entire cities were in ruins, millions were displaced, and the economy? Well, it was practically on life support. Rebuilding China was going to take more than just willpower, it required resources, time, and focus. Mao, ever the pragmatist, realized this. His attention shifted from Taiwan to something far more pressing, fixing his own backyard. China was in desperate need of economic recovery, social stability, and political consolidation. He launched land reforms, reorganized agriculture, and pushed for the rebuilding of industrial capacity. Every yuan, every ounce of manpower was redirected toward the monumental task of stabilizing the country. Now, let's be honest, you can't exactly storm a fortified island when your economy is limping and half your country is still picking up the pieces. It's like trying to plan a vacation when your house is on fire, not happening. On top of that, Mao had to secure communist rule across the vast and diverse regions of China. Keeping order wasn't easy, and the last thing he needed was to overextend himself with an expensive, risky invasion of Taiwan. Mao knew that China wasn't ready for war on two fronts, one of internal recovery and another across the sea. The focus had to be on rebuilding the mainland, not launching a military gamble on Taiwan. While Mao was busy dealing with the chaos on the mainland, across the Taiwan Strait, the Nationalists were preparing for a fight. And they weren't going to make it easy for the Communists. Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of the Nationalist government, knew that Taiwan was his last stand. The island would be his stronghold, and losing it meant the end of the nationalist cause. So, he made sure Taiwan was as fortified as possible. The nationalist forces on Taiwan were preparing for an invasion that could come at any moment. Troops were trained, artillery was positioned, and defenses were built to withstand a full-scale assault. They weren't just sitting around waiting for Mao to send his fishing fleet. Oh no! They were arming up, ready to turn the island into a fortress. It was like prepping your house for a storm, only this storm involved a potential communist invasion. But it wasn't just about guns and soldiers. Taiwan's natural landscape made it a defender's dream. The island is mountainous, with steep cliffs and rugged terrain that would have made an amphibious assault a logistical nightmare for Mao's forces. Any invasion attempt would have had to deal with not just well-trained nationalist troops, but also the natural defenses of the island itself. The terrain alone would have given Mao's forces serious headaches. It's hard to storm a beach when the hills are lined with artillery and your approach is blocked by rocky cliffs. Chiang Kai-shek's forces had time, and they used it wisely. They dug in, reinforced their positions, and prepared for the worst. Even with superior numbers, Mao's forces would have faced a long, bloody battle to take the island. Just when Mao was weighing his options for Taiwan, history threw him another curveball, the Korean War. In June 1950, conflict erupted on the Korean peninsula, and suddenly, Mao's focus shifted from the Taiwan Strait to the battlefields of Korea. Mao had bigger problems now. The North Koreans, backed by the Soviets, were on the brink of collapse as US and South Korean forces pushed them back. For Mao, the idea of a communist defeat in Korea was unthinkable. It would be a major setback for the communist movement in Asia. So instead of preparing to invade Taiwan, Mao redirected his resources and troops to Korea. Hundreds of thousands of Chinese soldiers were sent into battle to support the North Koreans. The invasion of Taiwan? Well, it would have to wait. Meanwhile, with the outbreak of the Korean War, the US doubled down on its commitment to defend Taiwan. President Truman made it clear that Taiwan was under American protection, and the US Navy's 7th Fleet wasn't going anywhere. In fact, they were even more committed to blocking any attempt by Mao to invade. At this point, Taiwan was like the neighbor's house with a giant, no trespassing sign, and the US was the guard dog sitting out front, daring anyone to make a move. With the US firmly protecting Taiwan and the Chinese military tied up in Korea, any dreams Mao had of invading the island were quickly fading. Taiwan was off the table, at least for the foreseeable future. The Korean War changed the game. Mao couldn't afford to fight on two fronts, a bloody conflict in Korea and a risky invasion of Taiwan. The focus shifted to the survival of North Korea, and Taiwan remained an unattainable goal. Mao may have won the Chinese Civil War on the mainland, but his failure to conquer Taiwan left a legacy that still echoes today. What started as a political and military conflict in 1949 has evolved into one of the most enduring tensions in international relations. The Taiwan Strait remains a flashpoint. China continues to claim Taiwan as part of its territory, while Taiwan functions as a self-governed, democratic island with its own government, economy, and military. This unfinished battle casts a long shadow over Asia. The decision by Mao not to invade, or rather, his inability to do so, left Taiwan as a separate political entity, and it has since become a symbol of resistance to communist control. Over the decades, Taiwan has developed into a vibrant democracy and a major player in global technology, but the threat of conflict always looms. Fast forward to today, and the legacy of that failed invasion plays out in the form of complex geopolitics. The U.S. remains Taiwan's key ally, continuing to provide military support under the Taiwan Relations Act. Meanwhile, China's government has never given up on its goal of eventual reunification, peacefully or, as they often remind the world, by force if necessary. It's like a high-stakes game of poker, either side is ready to fold, and the chips on the table? Global stability. As China grows stronger and more assertive on the world stage, the situation around Taiwan remains delicate. Military drills, political posturing, and diplomatic efforts have all tried, and failed, to resolve this enduring tension. For Mao, it may have been an unfinished battle, but for the world, it's an ongoing geopolitical puzzle. The question of Taiwan's future remains unresolved, and its fate is one of the most critical issues in global politics today. From economic ties to military alliances, the legacy of Mao's unfinished battle continues to shape the course of history. Mao's decision, or inability, to conquer Taiwan shaped not just the future of China, but the entire world. What started as a battle for political control has turned into a decades-long struggle, with global powers watching and waiting. Today, Taiwan stands as a symbol of resilience. A small island with a big presence, navigating its place in a complex world. And while the guns of 1949 have long gone silent, the tension between Taiwan and China remains ever present, a fragile piece with a looming uncertainty. The story of Taiwan and China isn't just a historical footnote, it's a living, breathing conflict that continues to influence international politics, economics, and military strategy. And as the world watches, one thing remains clear: Taiwan's future is still being written. Mao may not have conquered Taiwan, but his decision left a lasting mark on the region and the world. Taiwan's story is far from over, and as history has shown us, sometimes the battles that aren't fought are the ones that matter the most. Thanks for joining us on this journey through history and geopolitics. We've explored why Mao never conquered Taiwan and how that decision continues to shape global politics today. If you found this video insightful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out and lets us know you want more content like this. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest videos on history, politics, and everything in between. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Taiwan's future? How do you see the ongoing tensions evolving? Share your opinions in the comments below.